The Africa Export-Import Bank says in a recent report that the continent of Africa spent over $90 billion on food imports last year, although it possesses up to 60% of the world's remaining arable land. And that is a very sad commentary on a continent that has failed to feed itself by leveraging its youth population and modern technology. Tonight, let's focus on Nigeria, Africa's most populous country. Welcome my guests, African farmer Mogaji, the CEO of FARMCREDIT.NG and the chairman of Agric and agro-allied unit at the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Good evening, my friend. It's good to see you on the show.
Good evening. Good evening. It's good to see you again.
Let's hit the ground running. With arable land, good weather, massive young population, why is agro-allied industry a difficult thing for African economies, especially for Nigeria, to achieve?
Well, I believe from field and experience that most of what is required is not what the policymakers are adopting to implement. So what you mostly have is that we need the policies needed vis-a-vis what the youths require or what the sector needs is not what we're doing. So we bring equipment from Europe that mostly is not adapted to Nigeria, to West Africa, and we plan most of what we need based on the developed world as against adapting to our needs here. So that's a major challenge, irrespective of the opportunities that exist around here.
So if you go down the historical lane for Nigeria, what can we learn from our first generation of farmers and the value chain of agriculture that seems to be very elusive?
Well, generally, we say that the rural farmers do agriculture and the urban, well-read people do agribusiness. But contrary to that statement, you find out that in the 60s, the 70s, and the 50s, what you found was the farmer starts with 1 acre, grows eventually to like 20, 30 acres, builds a house, expands the business, buys equipment, all business management. They create market. And so the rural farmer really is engaged in agribusiness. They may not be educated, as against what we have now, where we have all the well-read, we call them investors, who believe that the rural people don't know much about agribusiness. So they did it. They understood timing. They understood scaling. They understood the process. So which is missing now? We want to perform miracles, and magic, and not follow the process. And process has to do with, yes, they weren't using irrigation then, and they were getting results. We may argue that climate change was not so apparent then, but they were still experiencing that. But they understood the dynamics, they understood government, they understood the market, and they were collaborating and synergizing. That's a missing link now. They work together in cooperatives. We work in isolation now. And in agribusiness or agriculture, as the case may be, depending on who is speaking, collaboration is key and integration. So that is what memory lane they got right that we're not getting right. It's me, myself, and I in today's agribusiness conversation.
So what lessons the recent protests and unrest in Lagos and elsewhere in Nigeria make very clear about the need for the Nigerian government to put the youth into productive activities such as agriculture?
Well, I'm quite happy with the development that has happened because it's brought some realities, to us. And one of it is that people need more food. And we still produce, a lot of food. And what I believe the government needs to be focusing on now is trying to convert the at least 40% of what is produced goes to waste. if we only convert or preserve 20%, that means that we'll be able to get more food. So we need to get more youths in policy positions. Take, for instance, the Minister of Agriculture should not be more than maximum 60, while the minister, that's the federal minister, while the Minister for State should be in the 40s or below 40. Why? Because this sector requires a lot of energy to move around, which was what Dr. Adesina, the current AFDB president, was able to do. He was in 3-4 states in the same day. He was traveling. You require the energy and the strength. And you have to be able to plug into the youths to be able to plan programs for them. The youths today will be on their earplugs listening to music. So we need tractors, we need equipment that fit into them. Currently, what is mostly done is just give some fertilizers. The whole process is not appealing to the current youth. Most of the youth today will not be able to sustain a family with the give seed, give fertilizer in those small quantities, 2.5 acres. So we need to government needs to redesign how to get the youths involved. And it's not rocket science. 30 years ago, the river basins got it right. We only need to dust those documents that set up the river basins, where the average farmer was given 5 hectares. I believe that's 12.5 acres, and the equipments were there. So we need to get a lot of youths involved. All the youths that were involved, in the protest and co, many of them can fit, comfortably in the value chain. And the value chain is huge now. The fashion industry is there. The youths love fashion. The value chain is very huge. They all use their phones. All of them can be distributors or marketers or what we call affiliate marketing, where they can make, something small, cumulative, become something big. So we need the youth to come in now.
Let me ask you, is it always about finance or funding? When you talk about agriculture, annual budgeting for the agri sector, or is it all about support from the multilaterals such as the FDB, Afreximbank, ARC, whatever you call it? Is it always about that?
For me, what we need to get this done to be food secure, it's not about the funding. It starts with infrastructure. And yes, the money is not there for government to fix the infrastructure. But most importantly, having the right people in office. And what do I mean by that? In the last few years, we had a Minister of State who said publicly in a program I was in, after 2 years, said, I've spent the last 2 years learning about agriculture in the season where we are trying to diversify into agriculture. So beyond money, we need the human resource to be there. So we don't need a lawyer, a banker, sitting in positions. In some of the parastatals that really determine, how things work, how will be food secure. You find many people who, they bring them in when they are 2 years to retirement, especially from the Ministry for Foreign Affairs, into agriculture. That's a diplomat. So the main challenge we have in the country is that we have people in positions of authority making policies in agribusiness across the country who have no prior knowledge, expertise, or practical exposure. When we get that right, it's not about money. The current private sector in this country wants to fund agribusiness, but the policy, the people there don't know about it. So when we get the human capacity right, we would be food secure.
Thank you so much for your time today discussing this very important subject. African farmer Mogaji, the CEO of FARMCREDIT.NG and the chairman of Agric and agro-allied sector at the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your holiday evening.